I found out who is suppressing the Bitcoin price. Now, it's not who you think it is, and you need to stay to the end of this video because I am going to expose how two of the biggest players in Bitcoin are working together to suppress the Bitcoin price. And I'm going to uncover some of these secrets as to why I think that the Bitcoin price is being suppressed by not only BlackRock and Larry Fink, but also by the United States government. And it all starts with a major announcement coming tomorrow as to why the US would have incentive to suppress the price. Now let's listen in.
Administration is expected to release its first national crypto stockpile report on Wednesday stateside, detailing the structure and contents of the government's digital assets. This includes holdings under the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and the U.S. Digital Asset Stockpile, which consists of cryptocurrencies seized through legal enforcement actions.
So all of this is being released tomorrow, and coincidentally, it is the same time where the United States is going to decide whether or not they cut interest rates. We're going to get into that decision here in a minute, but let's keep going in because there's been rumors that Wall Street has been seizing control of Bitcoin's center of gravity and that Bitcoin's price, it's not being suppressed because there isn't so much paper Bitcoin or anything else right here. Friend of the program, Checkmate, actually came on and said all of this. But it's hard to believe when you see all of the signs here, where we see the amount of buying pressure coming online. I mean, we've even got the White House director coming out and saying, Bo Hines, this very thing. If you guys forgot about it, I'll play it for you right here because Bo Hines said something very interesting. And this is why I think that the United States has been secretly buying Bitcoin and holding it up. And they're waiting to announce it and suppressing the price so they could get more of that Bitcoin. Now let's listen in.
That held on to some Bitcoin in some fashion or another. Now the process begins in terms of establishing the reserve, the actual infrastructure behind it, and getting all of that accomplished. There's nothing in the EO that mandates that report become public, but we could
see. So he said there's nothing in the EO that mandates that this report goes public. Now, if this report does not have to go public, which it hasn't yet, and we have so much buying pressure going on. I mean, we even have Jack Mallers going on CNBC detailing how much the companies are buying and talking about the fixed supply. And he even said something very interesting here about the price. Now let's listen into another clip here because I'm going to connect all of these here as to why I think this is the reason why Bitcoin's price is being suppressed.
You want more Bitcoin. You don't go to the Bitcoin factory to get one. You have to go up in price. Is there enough Bitcoin for me at 120,000? No. Okay, 130, 140, 150. So I tell you what, there's always Bitcoin available. Just depends on what you're willing to pay for it. And so what I think will happen is this price will continue to discover higher because Bitcoin is the scarcest thing. It's inelastic to the amount of demand that searches for it. So the amount of buying power that we're seeing from the capital markets, from the ETFs, and potentially from nation states like the United States, I think they'll find the supply they're looking for. They're just going to have to go get it at a higher price.
So you heard that. He even mentioned the United States saying, hey, they're going to have to get it at the price that they're ready for, right? Everybody says Bitcoin, you get it at the price that you deserve. You get it at the price that you deserve. But the interesting thing is here, the United States, Bo Hines, has already come out and said, hey, you know what? There's no mandate to report that we are buying, that we're doing all of these things. But tomorrow they're reporting on all of this and they're saying, hey, you know what? We're going to report on how much Bitcoin we have in the seized Bitcoin stockpile. There's been rumors floating around that the United States has been selling off. In fact, they were actually looking into, and a forensic analyst said that, hey, you know what? The overall price or the overall holdings of the United States is only at 28,000, not near that 200,000 that we saw earlier. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. We did have some other forensic internet sleuths, I guess I'll call them, find the actual wallet address, or at least the alleged one. But I think that there's interesting timing with all of this, right? Because Trump is essentially at odds with Jerome Powell, and he's doing it publicly. He's coming at them and saying, hey, you know what? We need to cut interest rates because the United States, well, let's just face it, our economy is not doing well. And we had some shocking news come out the other day about how much extra the loans will cost and why Donald Trump has been pushing for Jerome Powell to push interest rates. But with all this news, even with Jerome Powell and Donald Trump going at each other publicly, the FOMC meeting is tomorrow, and there's only a 2% chance of cutting interest rates. So it seems like Jerome Powell is going to win this battle, so to speak, even though we are looking at the potential of Donald Trump firing this guy. So there's been the question, right? Have they been manipulating the price of Bitcoin through all of this, right? I mean, it seems like that the United States and Wall Street, there's so much demand, so much buying pressure. I mean, we see new corporations pop online literally every single day. I mean, if you go to my favorite website these days, bitcointreasuries.net, there's literally been 21 new companies announcing publicly traded companies coming onto the market this month in the past 30 days. That's nearly, one a day, one every other day. That's more than that, right? And there's now 160. I don't know if you guys know this when I started doing all this stuff, but there was maybe 30 publicly traded companies when I started tracking this last year. And now we're seeing that 5x plus already. So this is the snowball effect that we're starting to see. And the interesting thing is that Michael Saylor lines it all out, right? He's had this public buy come out here fairly recently. And he's even raised a new debt offering, a preferred stock offering with the ticker STRC, right? Used as the net proceeds of 2.5 billion about to buy 21,021 Bitcoin, bringing their total earnings up. Metaplanet is finding all this new debt in the Japanese market and continuing to buy more Bitcoin, 780. That doesn't sound like much, but when, 450 are created every single day, well, Metaplanet almost bought 2 days worth, right? And that's not even counting how much MSTR is buying. Capital B, 58 BTC, 180 million buys. So all of these things, right? They're raising a bunch of money and continuing to buy. So that buying pressure is going up. So it still leads to the question, can Bitcoin's price be manipulated, right? Because the narrative of this cycle is that retail has not shown up yet, which, to be honest, I don't think that we are here yet. I don't think that the retail plebs are driving the forces, but we're having different guys come in with bigger bags. I mean, like Jack Mallers said in that clip, all of these guys will find ways to obtain money. You think the United States government that literally just was like, hey, you know what? We need to go and take out a loan for $1.5 trillion for the last 2 quarters of this year. You think those guys are saying, hey, you know what? Sorry, we can't find the money to buy Bitcoin? I don't think that's the case. So Bo Hines and his Wall Street connections can be manipulating the price. And I think that it is Wall Street and Bo Hines and the U.S. government working together. I mean, if you look at all of the connections here, right? Howard Lubnick, who is this guy? He's the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, right? But where did he work before? He worked at Cantor Fitzgerald. So if you look at Cantor Fitzgerald's holdings, they've been all about holding MSTR. I mean, look at the majority of their holdings is MSTR. Cantor Fitzgerald just partnered with Jack Mallers and Tether to do that. Now, who is the largest holder of U.S. government bonds, or one of the largest holders? Well, I'll tell you guys, it's Tether. So Tether, very intertwined with the U.S. government already. They just started this company 21, who all of a sudden went from non-existent to the number 3 holding, Bitcoin holding of any company, and they haven't even gotten public yet. they've already announced that they are going to do another buy prior to going public. So all of this is happening here and keeps going and increasing. The buying pressure keeps increasing. And we're looking at this and saying, hey, you know what? Everything's all fine. This is just all part of it. Not so fast, my friends. I really do think that we're starting to see these things start to unravel, right? I mean, Cantor Fitzgerald, Bo Hines, Howard Lubnick, all of these guys have Wall Street backgrounds. They all have that direct connection. In fact, Trump does as well, right? Trump is a capitalist through and through. So he wants to see his bags get pumped. So when you're seeing all of these different aspects, and Bitcoin is a strictly new asset to him, he does understand, real estate, the digital scarcity, all of these different things. But one thing that I think he doesn't understand, and in fact, majority of people in the Bitcoin space don't understand at all, is just how scarce Bitcoin is. I mean, people think, gold is a big comparison to Bitcoin. Bitcoin should be looked at as digital gold. Well, I mean, Elon was out here saying last year, oh, you know what? You can mine gold off of asteroids and all of these other crazy things. But the reality is you cannot create more Bitcoin. And when you have companies raising money like crazy, Strategy literally raising up 2.5 billion, and they're just getting started. In fact, the bankers are even saying, hey, there's price suppression worries below 100,000. This was back in February of 2022. JP Morgan, they were saying, hey, there's decline. There's notable decline. Institutional demand was declining in February of this year. I mean, how could you even see that demand declining? But it's not just me saying these things, right? It's not just me saying, hey, that the overall price is being suppressed by the United States government. We're going to get into all of the deep dives here in a minute, but I think the unique thing is that everybody's discovering that Bitcoin is the best collateral that there is. You don't actually have to sell your Bitcoin. There's great products and services out there where you can lend against your Bitcoin and get cash immediately. And I think I found the best one. That's Salt Lending. They have a bunch of different aspects that makes me absolutely love this product. And in fact, I've used it myself. But you can borrow against your Bitcoin, and they get rates as low as 8.95%. Now, what they're doing right now for the Green Candle listeners, now this is a special offer. They might change this if too many of you guys bum rush, but they could give you up to 0.5% off right off the jump. So instead of that 8.95%, you're getting under 8.5% right from the jump. And all you had to do is go to saltlending.com/greencandle. And that's link in the show notes below. And you could borrow up to 70% LTV. And there's no prepayment fees. And best of all, there's no rehypothecation. I know everybody in the Bitcoin space is worried about that. They don't have that. And then there's also Salt Shield, the no liquidation solution. It's assurance. So you don't have to worry about you potentially losing out on your Bitcoin. You just got to pay a little bit extra. And, if you're a Green Candle listener, they might give you a deal on that too. You just got to tell them where you find it all out. And hey, you know what? That loan might not be liquidated just because you got that because you just got that that Salt Shield. And then get your Lightning wallets ready, because we are going to try to make sense, and we're going to try to make sense here later if they can suppress the price, and then other people will scoop, won't they? Well, we'll go through all of that here in a minute, but first I'm going to give you guys some free sats, courtesy of my friends over at the Bitcoin Well. We're going to go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. Make sure you're smoking that like Cheech and Chong and hitting the subscribe button, because boom, man, 769 sats. That could be generational wealth here in the future. So make sure you guys are scooping that up ASAP like Rocky. And if you missed out, you could go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle today. Sign up. You'll get 500 wishing well points. And then on top of it, they also got infinite if you got 50K smackers. So TF is asking in the chat if they could suppress the Bitcoin price. Down Under Blues is saying the price or the price. Why would the government or whale risk losing their BTC? I don't think that the government would risk losing their BTC. I think that there's a combinations of things here. I think that price is being held down because they're putting wheels in motions for a lot of things. Now, Senator Cynthia Lummis just announced the 21st Century Mortgage Act, which bids mortgage lending into the digital age and makes homeownership accessible. They can use Bitcoin as collateral now for that, right? So if Bitcoin's price is shooting up all of a sudden, and then there's a bank run, and then now everybody wants to go buy houses, well, that's going to make housing more unattainable right off the jump. Now, the reason why I think the price is being suppressed is not because that the whales or the housing market or all of these different things. It's a combination of this, right? The U.S. government, Bo Hines, has come out and said that they want to get as much Bitcoin as humanely possible. That is their goal. Obtain as much Bitcoin, do it as much as they can. Now, Senator Cynthia Lummis has lined out one plan, and Michael Saylor has lined out another plan. Senator Cynthia Lummis's plan is buy 200,000 Bitcoin every year for 5 years and hold on to it for 20. Michael Saylor's is bum rush to Bitcoin, get as much as possible, get up to 1 million or to potentially 5 million coins. Now, the U.S. government has a hold on the stock market. If you guys don't think that the overall stock market has been manipulated for years, well, I hate to break it to you, BlackRock and all these big characters, well, they aren't your friends. And BlackRock getting into Bitcoin is still a very, let's call it sketchy place. There's been rumors, of course, of the paper Bitcoin attack, and there's been a ton of leverage now with Bitcoin treasury companies coming online to buy Bitcoin. So a lot of these different things are being stacked onto the new and financial system, where it's utilizing a lot of the old financial system, the banks, loans, all of these different things. So the reality of all of this is as more of these products come online, there needs to be some maturity, because if everybody just comes and bum rushes all of these different new products right off the jump, well, it's sitting on a house of cards. And the United States government is announcing tomorrow how much Bitcoin that they have. Now, they could have more than they previously had, and that would signal that they are buying. And if that signals that they are buying, then you're going to see the Bitcoin price shoot up, just plain and simple. All the internet sleuths and people aren't dummies. They're going to realize, hey, you know what? The U.S. government, they're buying Bitcoin and scooping it up, and they're just not announcing it like, Michael Saylor is every Monday. So if they're not scooping it up, and they're not, or if they are scooping up, and they're not announcing it, well, all of these people here are potentially looking at an incentive to suppress the price so they could buy as much Bitcoin as possible. Retail still isn't here yet, right? Dub is saying that they announced that the U.S. is going to buy Bitcoin with tariff money. Yeah, maybe they do something like that. Like some of these announcements that could happen tomorrow will shoot up the U.S. price or the Bitcoin price right away. Blockchain cannot be manipulated. It's just the price that could potentially do it, the dollar exchange rate. And as Jack Mallers was lining out, all of these guys, there were engineers before, but now they have access to capital markets that they never had before. So make sure you guys are still smoking that like Cheech and Chong and hitting that subscribe button, because we are just getting started here, because we are seeing this investigative report here that I found on LinkedIn, which I want to do a deep dive with you guys here on how it could be intentionally crash the price to buy Bitcoin. And this was written in February, right? So these have been rumors for a while. The idea that the U.S. government would remains highly speculative, but there's been no concrete evidence as emerged of any official or deliberate suppressed price for strategic gain. In fact, it would violate U.S. laws for market manipulation. But is the U.S. government doing all of this stuff, right? Because as Bitcoin gets more regulated, there is no control aspect of it. So saying, okay, you know what? Hey, you cannot manipulate the Bitcoin price because it's breaking laws. Sure. But let's face it, this is a free and open market. Now, the US government realizes that this is the first free and open market. And if this is the first free and open market, well, nobody can stop you from manipulating that price. And hey, if this were to happen, well, let's just say it would be very difficult to prove, and it's a free and open market. So there is some regulatory pressure, but this sees that we're going to get all the information about here. Well, tomorrow is going to be very interesting because we've had the Bitcoin price historically. Anthony Pompliano has said that 3 out of the last 4 times, and now it's 5 times after you've hit the all-time high, Bitcoin price doubles within 18 days. The Bitcoin price doubles within 18 days. I'm going to repeat that point because that's a 60% chance of that happening. Well, in fact, after this happened, well, the Bitcoin price has been relatively stagnant, floating between 110 and 120. So we haven't seen the Bitcoin price boom like we've seen before during all of this. And when the US is going to be detailing the National Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, well, it's almost like, hey, you know what? We're going to sandbag this report because once we announce that that we're buying Bitcoin, and we've been buying Bitcoin secretly, as Bo Hines alluded to a little bit in that clip I showed you guys earlier, well, if they've been doing all that, then it's going to show, hey, Bitcoin's price is going to absolutely take off. So TF is asking, what happened to Jason Lowry? He was going to get the strategic Bitcoin reserve job. Maybe he is convincing the cabinet in secret. Maybe. But if you look at all the cabinet right now, you look at everybody in there, right? You look at his cabinet Bitcoin connections. We've got RFK, right? Let's see if I could find the image from Michael Saylor's talk here. But we've got RFK. Here we go. We've got JD Vance, as of 2022, holds between 100 and 250,000 Bitcoin. Howard Lubnick come out and say Bitcoin should be traded like gold. All of these guys in the government have been, Donald Trump, 7 mil. Michael Waltz, hold between 50,000 and 100,000. Vivek, Tulsi Gabbard, all of these guys, right? They've all held Bitcoin, including RFK, friend of the program. All of these guys have been holding Bitcoin for quite some time. So with these whales, you get the connection with the whales and with traditional finance. Big money guys talk, right? And yes, Trump's kids are also in Bitcoin. I mean, we've seen the Trump tokens and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to get into any of that here today, but all of these guys are deeply connected into the Bitcoin space. And it would make you think, hey, you know what? They've got that deep connection with David Bailey, Nakamoto, all of these different guys getting in connected with the United States government. So these big money managers who were previously connected to Trump now are all into Bitcoin. So these guys are working together to manipulate the price so they could scoop up as much as possible. They're working together for sure. And if you don't think that BlackRock, Larry Fink, maybe even Baldy Locks and Brian Armstrong are cooking up something here, well, I hate to break it to you. I wouldn't be surprised if something breaks, some news comes out from that right off the jump. Because all of this, right, the U.S. government, there are people that want to scoop up and they realize just how drastic this could be. So we've got almost 300 of you guys on top of X and Twitter or X, excuse me, and YouTube. So make sure you guys are hitting that retweet button, like button, subscribe button, all of that stuff to help push this to more and more people. And I think another unique wrinkle that not a lot of people are talking about here is just how intertwined the US housing market is going to get into all of this, because that's a $300 trillion market. And the SEC is now approving in-kind redemptions for these crypto ETFs, which I think is a little unique here as well. All right, so for those of you who don't know what an in-kind redemption is, well, an in-kind redemption is, all right, if I deposit cash into a Bitcoin ETF, I get out cash. If I deposit gold into an in-kind ETF, I can pull out that gold directly. Same thing with Bitcoin now. If you deposit Bitcoin into the Bitcoin ETF, well, now you can withdraw that Bitcoin and get that same amount. Now, I'm not telling you to deposit your Bitcoin with BlackRock and all of these guys, because I mean, we've been talking about it for months on this channel, but there's that chance. The biggest failure point of Bitcoin, the biggest centralization, is the paper Bitcoin attack that Coinbase could be offering here. Right? So these things you need to be very cautious with and just watch just how this develops over time. So this is some big breaking news here, as we saw that the US is going to announce all of this. But I think the biggest thing with Bitcoin, you guys know me. I mean, they say I look like a funeral director here, but I think it's just for the death of fiat. So you could go to thebitcoinway.com/green-candle. These guys literally work around the clock to help you get your self-sovereignty all up and running. So if you want to get your Bitcoin off an exchange, you want to run a node, you want to do literally anything in the Bitcoin space, they have 25 years of cybersecurity experience. So they can help make sure you don't got any bugs. Nobody's going to be tapping in. Just book a consultation with them. They literally work around the clock. Like if you go to some random day here, they're working from 1 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. You're going to find a time where these guys are going to be able to help you out. And you need to do it quickly, because we're seeing so many different aspects of Bitcoin just absolutely take off. I mean, we're seeing Bitcoin's now hash rate reach all-time highs as well. So these in-kind redemptions, they're allowing position increases where you're going to see something start to take off here, where you're seeing the position limit increase 10x from 25,000 to 250,000 contracts that will allow traders to take on much larger exposure for all of this. So these guys are now allowing all of you to hold Bitcoin through these ETFs, and they want you to hold more of it. It reflects the growing institutional demand and the maturing market for Bitcoin spot ETFs. And I think that is continuing to go up. These guys, I mean, Jack Mallers, like I showed you guys in that clip earlier, they are going to buy as much Bitcoin as possible. And they're now using Bitcoin for all types of things. I mean, Wells Fargo CEO has come out and said that Bitcoin is taking over the $300 trillion global bond market. Like, this is the Wells Fargo CEO saying all this. So it's not just, the talking heads here on YouTube. Wells Fargo CEO saying that it might be the most underappreciated story of 2025. But if you think about it, well, the Bitcoin ETFs and what we're seeing, Bitcoin's financializing everything, including, potential trading. Senator Lummis coming out and saying that, hey, you can use it for mortgages, all of these different things. We're going to start to see Bitcoin's price absolutely go on a big run. And if you want to get some of that exposure, but do it through mining, Simple Mining, if you go to simplemining.io/green candle, they've got some great options for you. They've actually got tax benefits where you can write off a depreciating miner. They have a great location in Cedar Falls, Iowa, where they will be able to offer you free service. And if you go to simplemining.io, the Green Candle listeners will get 1 year free of all repairs. So you can go in there and see if it is a fit for you. Go ahead and schedule a call with the boys over at Simple Mining. That link's in the description below. So make sure you go to simplemining.io/green candle, and they'll give you 1 free year of repair. And you got to do it quickly because we're seeing a lot of places start to FOMO into Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining as well. I mean, solo miners are finding blocks. We're seeing Financial Times journalists come out and say that, hey, this is a crypto crisis. Wow, that is absolutely crazy. The FUD that I'm seeing this time around, folks, it's incredible. I mean, I just can't even believe it half the time. But we're seeing, Jordy Visser, we're seeing Ray Dalio, we're seeing all of these big guys come in and say Bitcoin should be a lot higher than it is. Right? Senator Cynthia Lummis doing this bill. So all of these guys, Jack Mallers saying that they wanted to purchase another 5.2 billion worth of Bitcoin. So they'll close into that 50K Bitcoin mark fast. All of these guys, they're buying Bitcoin at an unprecedented rate. And if for some reason you guys are getting bearish out there, I can't believe it. I mean, I'm in shock with what you guys are telling me and being bearish with all of this. But we've got a ton of you guys tuning in, nearly 300 of you guys. Please make sure you're smoking that like Cheech and Chong, hitting that subscribe button, telling a friend to tell a friend, and I'll catch you guys all at the next one.